Now we have another guest interview. We're going to bring Dan Costanza to the stage, and Dan works for Ardex Americas, and Ardex is also today's sponsor. So thank you, Ardex, for sponsoring this session, this Tile Nation session, excuse me. You can catch these on YouTube at the Tile Nation. Just search the Tile Nation on YouTube and you can see all the replays. So we're going to bring Dan to the stage right now and check him out.
There he is.
Hey, Dan.
How are you?
Doing well. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Glad to have you here. Why don't you introduce yourself, where you're at in the world, and what you do for Ardex?
Oh, cool. So Dan Costanza, I'm the business manager for Tile and the regional sales manager for the Northeast region for Tile and Stone for Ardex. I hail out of the New York area, Long Island specifically, kind of central Suffolk County, kind of right in the epicenter of the whole COVID situation. But I wish everybody the best of health and the best of luck. And I just wanted to say that we're all going to get through this together.
For sure.
I don't think we're all in the same boat. Some people are dealing differently with it, but I think as a united front, we're going to do fine. So
sure.
Yeah, so been with Ardex for about 6.5 years now. It's been a cool ride. Started out in sales in the Northeast region, the New York Metro region, and what we call it. It's been a great ride. Kind of my first go at sales, which was fun. It was a great product, great company, some great times, some good growth. Made a lot of new friends, built a lot of relationships. Moved from sales, got into business development management, which was cool for Ardex. So it was kind of new. Got to travel a little bit. Got to go around and meet some of the other sales pros throughout the U.S. and Canada. Since January, moved into a business management and took responsibility for the direct sales for the Northeast for the Tile and Stone program. So really cool, man. It's just a great company to work for. A lot of fun, always learning, never a dull moment.
Yeah.
But it's been a good ride.
That's great. So what does that all entail with your new position there?
So direct sales, direct responsibility for sales. I have it's 7 or 8 people, direct reports that I manage or oversee, if you want to call it that. So it's really just making sure that we're all kind of marching to the same beat, reading off the same sheet of music, working on distribution, system specifications, architectural specs, as well for the regional sales management side. The business manager side is a little bit different. It's more of a United States kind of national responsibility, overseeing systems and working closely with some of the synergies with some of the new businesses we've either acquired or joint ventures, either it be GUTR or DTA, working on some of the new products, filling some gaps, taking some technologies throughout some of the other parts of the world that we have R&D plans for. So it's a great situation. I'm blessed. I'm very lucky to have the opportunity. It's a nice decentralized type of business atmosphere where Ardex does a really good job finding the strengths of certain people and utilizing those strengths to further develop the overall business for us. And I've been a recipient of a couple really cool things and gone through some really cool training programs, whether it be Summer Academy or whether it be the business development courses that they put us through. So never done learning, always something new, always looking to learn new things and new ways. And more importantly, it's really taught me a lot about myself. And I mean, isn't that what we're all here for, right? Personal as well as business development.
Well, what a great story. It sounds like you've got a good thing going on there with Ardex. Thanks for sharing. Forgive me if I missed it, but what were you doing before Ardex 7 years ago?
So before Ardex 7 years ago, I was a technical director for a company called HG Stones out of Brooklyn, New York. They had a few locations, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Long Island. We were a slab supplier. So my background is a good mixture between natural stone slabs, whether it be restoration. I was a marble setter for Local 7 for a little while, early on in my days, a restoration mechanic back in the early 90s. I was a tile setter. I had my own tile business for a while. I was a slab inspector. I worked for a company that managed the account for the Home Depot program for granite countertops. That was a furnish and install and a supply only. So we had a network of fabrication throughout the country, which was a really great opportunity to see. When you get to see things in masses, you get to identify small little trends and track little things that most people may, in their lifetime have one of these problems. But we get to see 1 or 2 of those a month. It really allows you some good insight as to what's happening.
Yeah, I imagine.
But yeah, but right before this, I was more or less a project manager and a technical director for a stone supplier.
Yeah, well, quite an extensive history there, and certainly you've done quite a bit in both the tile and the stone world. So that's great. Thanks for sharing. What keeps you driven right now? What are you passionate about today in the
What am
tile
I
world?
passionate about today? So there's a lot of different things. You want to call it death by a thousand cuts, I guess. There's a lot of different things. Right now, people is my thing.
Really?
I thoroughly enjoy working with people, and some of the greatest things that I have done and worked with is onboarding new employees and making sure that they have a path and a place, and they could really kind of learn different skills. I come from a blue collar background. I was a tile installer for the better part of my professional career, and it's really nice when you could take somebody that's there and is looking for something different, that's able to hang up their tool belt for a minute and disconnect the knee pads for a minute, and then start to communicate on a professional level and learn all the different ways of life. And some people just don't realize you can certainly feed your family without installing 200 or 300 square feet of tile every day. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Trust me, there are many days that I would love to sit back and sometimes you miss that gratification of being able to take a step back and look at what you've done, and the artistic value and the freedom of having your own business, or being a tile setter or a stone setter or a slab installer. It's a great industry. It's a great career, whichever way you go. But it's just nice to know that if you wanted something different, it's out there, and there's a lot of really talented, smart people that are in this industry that can do multiple different things. And it's just nice to be able to give people opportunities and options should they choose to take a different path. Yeah. So right now, that's probably what I'm most passionate about.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's a great outlook on this industry. There's so many different avenues we could chase.
Sure.
Really appreciate you, bringing light to that. Over the years, you probably had some crazy stories, different job sites you've been on personally,
Sure.
or like you said, you see the worst cases. Do you have any that you want to share with us?
Oh, so there's probably a whole bunch, but I'll tell you. So one of the things that I share this often, I've said this story 3 or 4 different times, and there's 2 parts to it, and we'll leave the other part out because eventually when I tell you what the date was on it and where I was, it leads into a whole nother, maybe that's a whole nother story for another conversation. But
okay.
Sometime around mid-September 2001, I was working on a project, tall high-rise in New York City, 89th floor, Harris Beach law firm. It was finally an opportunity. I was still a bit of a young tile setter. I got out of restoration work. I was a ceramic tile installer for a while, and I finally had an opportunity to work with a guy that was deemed one of the better guys. He was not only fast, he was efficient. The quality of his work was second to none. Jose Cusco is his name. Great guy. He and his brother, Daniel Cusco, were guys that I looked up to, and I wanted to figure out what is it that they do so different than I do. Because ultimately they were much faster. And in some cases, we were getting lumped work and we were getting paid by the square foot years ago. Oh, yeah. And I couldn't understand why I wasn't getting the big jobs. I was getting some of the small, complicated stuff. And it was a testament to who I was. I'm detail oriented. I do a lot of things and a lot of radius cuts and a lot of medallions and cut to size work. And I can prefabricate on site. And that was great. But yet the guy that was installing 200 square feet more than I was at the end of the day, ultimately he was feeding his family faster and more efficiently than I was. Yeah. And I wanted to know what is it exactly that he did differently than I did, because I thought I was pretty good. Yeah. But I knew he was faster. So we finally had an opportunity. I remember it clear as day, 3,000 square feet, 89th floor, Harris Beach law firm, 18 by 18 honed Botticino marble. It was the first time I've seen a honed tile. I couldn't understand why somebody wouldn't want it shiny. I came from a restoration background, and I'm like, why would you want a dull floor? So don't ask me anything about trends because I don't know them. So we snap a line down the center of the floor. There was no leveling clips. There was no fancy tools. You had your old Milwaukee 9-pound mixing drill, and you had whatever thin set it was that we were using at the time, and you go. And I realized that in order to be effective and efficient at installing tile, and you musicians out there might know this, it's called being in the pocket. There's a pocket that you get into. And it has a lot, and it doesn't have everything to do with setting the tile, because tile by tile, he and I were 1 for 1. The first day that we started, we mixed up our product, we got our knee pads on, we tied our shoes, we went to work, and we were 1 for 1 up until about lunchtime. Yeah. And then I realized that I ran out of thin set about 10 minutes before lunch, and he had his helper with a brand new bucket of thin set ready to go. And then by the time we got back to lunch, he had a new bucket ready to go. My guy was looking for water. I was loading tile. So the importance of a good helper, the importance of efficiency, staging your area, the importance of you and your team being in the pocket like a bass player and a drummer or a keyboard player and a guitar player. You're in that pocket together. We were setting tile just as quick as each other were, and that was okay. Yeah. But he did everything else faster and more efficiently than I did. And it taught me something, like immediately learned that there was another way to do business out there. And if I want to be successful, yes, square, flat, level, and plumb is important. Cuts got to be cleaned. They got to be eased. You got to take your time and do things right. But there is a better way to do things if you want to survive in this industry and you want to feed your family, be successful. And that was like one day that I'll never forget. The back end of that is, after that, the entire building came down and it was a disaster. But like I said, that's a whole nother story about that part of it.
Yeah, no, that's a great lesson and excellent illustration of, getting into that zone, the pocket, whatever you want to call it, and really getting into rhythm, working with one another and having a systematic way to do things. Really appreciate that, Dan. Thanks for sharing that.
So setting tile and music correlate in any way. Setting super format tile and these large, big panels is like the jazz part of the band. Yeah. You're absolutely, and you have to be in sync, and you got to know each player has a responsibility when you're setting a large format thin gauge panel tile. And it's nice if you can get it right into that pocket. The sooner you get into that pocket, the better you're going to be, the better the installs are going to be.
Nice. Yeah. I want to encourage the audience to put up your questions in the Q&A box or the chat room. Dan, what kind of industry-wide challenges do we see today that kind of are a little troublesome?
Yeah, so it's going to sound cliche when I say it. It's a lack of qualified labor. There's no question about it. We were talking the other day. I do a lot of mason work, a lot of flat work, a lot of paver work, and show me a mason that's younger than 45 years old or 50 years old. Yeah. And the tile world it's a little bit different. We have a lot of newer talent, younger talent coming in, but when are we going to find a way to make tile setting look sexy again? And you guys, and I say you guys, the whole side of this industry has done an amazing job at bringing tile to the forefront, onto the main stage. We need more of that. We need more of you guys out there. We need more people grabbing a phone or a camera and saying, "Hey guys, take a look at this. Take a look at this job." Or, "Hey, I might have an issue. Can somebody help me?" And that networking and fusing all that information from a digital platform has really been one. It's done great things for our business, and it's now becoming cool again to be a tile setter. Years ago, when we used to set tile, or I was in the countertop business, when we would pull up with our truck and get ready to bring tile and stone in, everybody else would part ways and let us come in and do our thing and help us. Now they're asking us to step over them, and they're stealing our extension cords. And we got to get back to where we were. We're a finished trade. We're one of the greatest trades out there.
I agree.
We got to making sure that we have the right people to continue that.
We got to make tile sexy again.
Make tile sexy again. There you go. I like that.
The tiles are getting so beautiful, and they're doing things at such a rapid rate. I remember for a long time it was 8x8s and then 12x12s, and then Sure. We got into 18s, but now things are just evolving so rapidly. And I agree, we need more qualified labor to keep up with especially these large format tiles that we're seeing really taking over the market.
For sure. So we see, obviously, things happen, and we know this. It's kind of commonplace, but trends happen, especially for tile and stone. Trends happen overseas in Europe, and then they work their way over. Yeah. When they work their way over, what I've recognized, and I certainly can be challenged, and I'd be happy to, when I see things happen, it usually ends up in Canada first. There's a very strong European influence in Canada, especially in the Toronto and Vancouver area. Yeah. So they're a little bit more likely to bring over that European technology, where some of these large formats and these different types of stones and these different either aluminum backings or glass backings or thin natural stone tethered to laminated over a porcelain tile. There's a lot of technology that's over there, and it takes some time for it to come here. Yeah. It ends up usually on the East Coast, West Coast of Canada, probably about a year before it ends up on the East Coast and West Coast of the States. And then it slowly works its way into the center parts of the U.S. Yeah. That's been happening for so long. Why don't we recognize that and get in front of it? Put the put the cart back behind the horse on this one.
Yeah.
And know that it's coming our way.
Yeah.
Syntholite, I go back to the Neolith days. Before Neolith, it was Syntholite. I go back 2004 when I saw my first large format porcelain panel. We were presenting it to the Home Depot board, trying to figure out, is there a way that we can put these big porcelain slabs in the back of a truck and do a quick retrofit over an old Formica countertop and flip that out. And we just didn't have the technology to do so. We didn't have any of the equipment, any of the carrying equipment, certainly not the adhesives to be able to support that.
Yeah.
What happens is the price just gets pushed right through the roof, and all of a sudden it's no longer sexy again to want to do a porcelain kitchen countertop when it's $190 a square foot, and they can get Ubatuba for $35 and $40 at that time.
Yeah.
But so it's coming. The technology's there. It's coming here. We got to find a way to kind of cut the crossroads on that one and get that information to us sooner, and then we can react faster. We can get our trainings. We can get labor set up. We can get materials set up. We can get better adhesives, better manufacturing. We need to be in the forefront. We're working on it. We're getting better.
No, I agree, Dan. And I do want to compliment Ardex for all the trainings they do. If anybody's out there wanting to learn, some of these new methods, get a hold of Dan, get a hold of Ardex, your Ardex local rep, and make sure you understand when these trainings are coming your way. They're free to attend. They just want to empower you and give you the tools that you need to do your job right. And you mentioned something over, the thin panel tiles over, older, granite or whatever. I mean, talk about a moneymaker right there.
Sure.
A lot of these larger buildings are just wanting, to resurface. And that's a quick, even though the material's expensive, maybe more expensive than other options, you might not have to demolish the old granite. And we're seeing a lot of people like J&R out of Texas doing that type of work. And Dan can help you do that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And she's certainly on the forefront of technology and understanding. So she's awesome.
For sure. She's going to be doing a great presentation for our virtual trade show May 18th and talking to us about these subjects. So
yeah, excellent.
Everybody make sure.
I'd love to be invited. Cool.
All right, Dan. Well, time's up. Really, I appreciate you taking the time to let us get to know you a little bit. It was fun. And I truly appreciate everything you do for us tile guys out there and staying in touch with us and communicating.
Yeah, likewise. Well, thank you for having us, and thank you for all the listeners, and enjoy your weekend. Be safe.
Will do. All right, Dan. Take care. All right. We've got another great interview coming up here in about 20 minutes with Jason McDaniel out of Portland. So at 3:40, we're going to do that.